Welcome, everybody, to the Huddle, King of Nine's weekly streaming sports talk show. I'm Jason Barr, joined by Pat Parris. Pat, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thought we'd start with our weekly Huddle poll question, which goes right into today's big news of the day, at least as far as Arizona basketball is concerned, as Kylan Boswell enters the transfer portal. I think some of the other guys who may have already entered or will enter weren't a surprise. This one could have gone either way. He does enter it today, and here are your three choices. Boswell did not have all true, right? But you got to pick one. Boswell did not have a good season. Jaden Bradley really outplayed him. Certainly, Bradley was playing at the end of the second half, and he actually started the second half of some games. And disappointed that he was a five-star recruit. Pat, here's somebody in Kylan Boswell who reclassified, was a 17-year-old freshman last season, played terrific under Kirk Kriisa, so much so that they gave him the keys to the offense as a starting point guard. Pat, Kylan Boswell did not have a good year this year.
19-1 were the Wildcats when he scored 10 or more points. They were 8-8 when he scored less than 10 points, and I think that speaks volumes. The only game they lost, by the way, was that FAU double overtime game, or however many overtimes it was, when he scored 10 points, but he had a couple extra, overtime periods to get to the 10 points. Bottom line is, Jason, he could have come back. I think we all thought he might come back, but we also all thought that he wasn't going to be the starter anymore. We thought Jaden Bradley was going to be the starter.
But the two of them can play in the same backcourt.
They could, but I was going to say what the accounts are that they had a meeting, he and Tommy Lloyd, and they came to the conclusion that he wasn't going to start, and maybe even as two guards of the same ilk playing at the same time just wasn't enough for Kylan Boswell, so he opts to go in the transfer portal. I will say what I told you a week ago when we kind of you and I just as we talk in the newsroom at KEGA 9, I said, I don't know where he can go that he can get the NIL money that he's getting here in Tucson, because he'll go somewhere now that he's not nearly as well known. He became somebody who everybody latched onto and really rooted for as a 17-year-old freshman. And then people were pulling for him, and he was doing all kinds of commercials around town. And I just don't know where he's going to go to make that kind of money. Maybe he'll come back. Maybe he'll find out the grass isn't greener. He'll come back. But either way, Kylan Boswell was not playing up to the expectations that I think we all had for him.
Yeah, so Boswell is the fourth Wildcat to enter the transfer portal. As we take a look at the four Wildcats who have done so. Some surprises, some not. Boswell could have gone either way. I think Umar Ballo really a surprise, because with Ballo, you thought that was his last year at Arizona, but you also thought he was going to go pro. And for him to go to the transfer portal and then to play another season elsewhere, to me, I'm surprised by that. I thought he was going to come back to college basketball. Why not come back to the team where you're a starter, where you're established, where you've got a super close connection with the coach? The fact that Boswell is going to play for another college next year kind of doesn't make me feel so good, Pat.
Well, yeah, I've kind of had mixed emotions about that too. I thought that he would probably not get drafted in the NBA, but he could go play in Europe and make a lot of money. And I thought, okay, if you're not, then you'll come back here and get the NIL money that he'd already established here in Tucson. Kind of the same way. Is he going to go somewhere else and get the same kind of NIL money? We don't know. My gut is, and this is just pure speculation, that he and Tommy Lloyd had the conversation. We know they're very tight-knit. Umar Ballo credits Tommy Lloyd with a lot of his development, and obviously he looks at Tommy Lloyd almost as a father figure, or his family as a secondary family, and that's why he followed him from Gonzaga here to Tucson. But maybe they had one of those kind of heart-to-hearts where they said, do you want to better yourself and maybe get your knowledge of basketball, expand that a little bit? Perhaps you go to another program like Tommy Lloyd has a lot of fifth-year players come here and get 1 year in at a high-level program. Maybe he's saying, let's try another program for you and see if you can learn some things that'll take you to the next level that way.
I don't know. The other thing that I feel about a lot of these guys, 4 years in college is enough. There's a reason college is 4 years. I know the 2020, 2021 season was shortened a little bit, but you got the 21 season, 22, 23, 24. Just organically, it should be 4 years in college basketball. This fifth year is too much. It really is. Especially, how much better are you really going to get in college in a fifth year? You're either good enough to go pro or you're not. So that's kind of the way I feel. I also feel that Mo Krivas can be just as good next year as Bala was this year.
Exactly.
That
And maybe better, Jason, because you and I have seen him at times, and especially, the glimpses that we've gotten perhaps at practice or things like that, where you're like, this guy's one of the best players on the court. And we didn't get to see a lot of it because his minutes were limited, but we certainly see as a freshman that he's already at a level that Umar Bala couldn't even get on the court at Gonzaga very, very much when he was a freshman.
That's
I think
right.
the
Good
upside
point. Yep.
is much, much higher. And maybe that was part of it too. Maybe Tommy Lloyd in a way was just kind of saying, look, the handwriting's on the wall with both Kylan Boswell and with Umar Bala. We've got guys that might be a little bit better, and your playing time might go down next year.
And these guys on the bench have got to play. I'm
Right.
sure Tommy Lloyd realizes you can't be bringing these guys halfway all over the world and not play them. The most egregious example, Adama Ball last year, 2 seasons, doesn't see the court. Here we go. Philip Borovichin, 2 seasons, doesn't see the court. Now,
Yep.
I'm not sure Borovichin, where he was at skill level, unlike Adama Ball, who clearly could play. Morauskas, you look back to the season, they should have found some minutes for him somewhere.
Yep.
I know he was a freshman, and next year Connor Martinez has got to play.
He does.
And Jaden Bradley is going to be the point guard. Joseph
Right.
Sainon's coming in; he's going to play. KJ Lewis, he's there in the backcourt. And Connor Martinez deserves a few minutes. I think he looked a little young, this year. But
he also played some quality minutes too.
No reason he shouldn't be in the rotation next year.
So you're really coming back to that whole thing, Jason, where if you're only going to play 8 players, and that's now the norm in college basketball.
There's teams playing 9.
Nope. Jason, the final 4 teams, all 4 of them only had 8 players that averaged more than 10 minutes. It's the way it is. It's just 8 players is what everybody plays now. And so even if you went 9, but my argument is 8, but even if you want to make the argument 9, you can't have 12 guys on the team that all think they should be playing those.
I've said that for years. Basketball is not about more. It's about being the right guys.
Yes.
It's not being more guys. So now we wait for, I guess, a decision for Caleb Love. Listen, I love Caleb Love, but Caleb Love's time to go pro.
I think Caleb Love's coming back. If today, I believe he's coming back. Tomorrow might be a different story, but I think in his mind, he has something to prove and he wants to come back. And I don't think he wants to, even though you're allowed now to transfer twice, I just don't think he wants to transfer again. So to me, he either goes pro or he comes back to U of A. And right now today might be coming back as a Wildcat.
How does it benefit him to come back to U of A?
Unfinished business, that if I come back and lead this team to the Final Four, then maybe my draft stock goes up and I can prove, everybody has different reasons, but that'd be my guess. Just the way he was Jason, he was in that locker room after the loss in LA in the Sweet 16, and he was just heaping it on himself. And he was so,
I feel badly. I know he wanted it. Yeah.
And give him some time. Guy. Maybe he'll change his mind over time. But right now, I think he feels like he owes the University of Arizona and some of his teammates, the ones that are staying, another shot. So,
all right. I mean, he'd have to play better, in
more
big
consistent.
spots,
he has to play more consistent. He was the Pac-12 Player of the Year after all.
I know. That's a default guy.
Yeah.
One of those Washington State players could have won it. I get it. He's the leading scorer and possibly the best player on the team that did win the regular season. I think N'Faly Dante showed in the Pac-12 tournament who the best player in the Pac-12
right, but he wasn't healthy the whole time.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah. So he's winning it by default there a little bit. Okay, before we move on, let's Jason Barr, Pat Parris is the Huddle, KGUN 9 streaming sports talk show. Let's take a look at some of our poll results, early poll results in. But we do have a few votes. 2/3 of people are disappointed that he was a 5-star recruit. I hate seeing those 5-star recruits get away. Your thoughts on the early poll results, Pat?
I would say, that doesn't surprise me. I actually voted for number 2. He just really got outplayed by Jaden Bradley, and I think that sent him on the way out of town, as it were, with the transfer portal. But I can see the third one as well. I mean, I'm disappointed. You know, as we always say, there's a little bit of all three of those. We have to pick one. I understand why people are saying they're disappointed he was a 5-star recruit, because last year we just kept saying, wow, look how good he is as a 17-year-old. And then we suddenly, this time last year, and by the way, we were all wondering how we were going to fill out the roster at this time last year, remember? Because they had so many guys leaving. But he was going to be the guy coming in the
transfer portal now. But yeah.
He was the guy coming back, so we thought he's going to be his team, and he's going to embrace it, and he's going to
How good you must be as a 17-year-old who can play college basketball.
18-year-old, and imagine if he hits like 44% of his threes. And then all of a sudden, the last half of the season, he shot like 20% of his threes. So yeah, it just went wrong.
So I've been teasing Pat in the newsroom a little bit the last day or so, because I think if you're a really big Arizona Wildcat fan, I think you got to hold your breath until this Kentucky position is filled. I'm not saying he's going. I'm not saying Kentucky's going to offer it to Tommy Lloyd, but Las Vegas odds don't play around. This is Kentucky sports betting we're looking at. And they have Tommy Lloyd going as a 10% chance to Kentucky. Okay. Those things happen. 10% of the time things happen. Okay. Scott Drew, I'm sure Baylor's got the money to keep him. Billy Donovan, I'm not 100% sure of his situation with the Bulls. Nate Oates is not leaving. Take that 10% out, you know? So I tell you what, you can say Tommy Lloyd's not leaving, but I think Pat, you've got a little wishful thinking. Jay Johnson, the baseball coach, went to LSU. The football coach went to the Big Ten. The athletic director went to the SEC, Alabama, and the soccer coach went to Florida. You think that the premier job can't lure somebody away? I think, Pat, you're not thinking with your head, you're thinking with your heart.
No, I think I look at it, I try not to look at it with my heart, but there's some reasons why I'm at most 10% worried that Tommy Lloyd will be leaving. I'm 90% sure he's staying. There are a lot of reports out today, one of which quotes sources inside the Kentucky athletic department saying they've narrowed it to 4 guys: Scott Drew, Dan Hurley.
Dan Hurley's not going.
I know. Bruiser Flint and Billy Donovan. Those are the 4 guys they're going to try to interview for the job. They hope to know by Friday. Tommy Lloyd's not on that list, at least not right now.
No, I do believe he's going to be. If he goes, it'd have to drop down to him. I'm saying that can happen.
Yes,
I don't think he's on the top of the
10. That's the 10% I'm worried about. But there's a couple other things that make me not as worried as we see Tommy Lloyd quite comfortable at McHale Center, quite comfortable now with his salary that's paying him almost $6 million a year. He's signed for another 5 years. I'll bring this up right now. I got 12 million reasons right here, Jason, as to why he's not going to Kentucky. That's a $12 million buyout today if they were to buy out Tommy Lloyd. Not that Kentucky doesn't have deep pockets. I'm not saying that. I'm just not. I'm not convinced that they're going to shell out 12 million. If they shell out 12 million, that makes it a lot easier a hit for the University of Arizona. But I think 12 million is a big buyout for a guy who hasn't won past the Sweet 16 in the NCAA tournament. His regular season record's phenomenal. I hope he stays, and I hope that he proves to everybody that he can go beyond the Sweet 16 and maybe win a national championship someday. I also believe that this is very important, and I take him face value at his word. Tommy Lloyd is a West Coast guy, and he only wants to stay on the West Coast. His Gonzaga roots for almost 20 years as an assistant for Mark Few. His time now here at the University of Arizona on the West Coast, where his family is much more comfortable. I don't see him as a Kentucky guy. I understand that job is much more appealing than Arizona, but Arizona can be a national contender every year, which he's proven for the last 3. And I think all that adds up to him staying.
No, the 12 million buyout's part of the reason why I think he would be a second tier. And it would be a situation where what Washington football was when they're like, oh my goodness, if we go past Jed Fish, we're really now dropping down. We're just going to throw so much money at the problem that'll solve itself. Right. And I think that's what if they got down to Tommy Lloyd on their pecking order, and I see he's not at the top, I think that's what would happen. So that's why I don't think money is the big issue there. So yes, I'm half teasing you. I'm teasing you a little bit. but I do think you should hold your breath just until it's filled. And I think every single one you go down, increases that 10%. My
Yeah,
2 cents anyway. 10% is 10%. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying it's out there.
yeah.
All
He
right.
also is, not only is he busy right now, I gotta, this is my personal opinion. I gotta believe Tommy Lloyd is focused on the guys that he's talked to about whether they're going to transfer, whether they're going to stay. He's focused on the transfer portal, and then remember, he's Team USA head coach for is the 18 and under team. Is that what he's the head coach for? I
One of
believe.
those teams.
Yeah, and so I really think he's got a lot on his plate, and I don't. I think he signed that contract for a reason, and he allowed the $12 million buyout in there for a reason because he didn't have any plans of leaving, even if a Kentucky or a North Carolina job came open, at least at this point in his career.
All right, I thought we'd spend a minute here on the Arizona Coyotes, Pat, who delivered a change in messaging this past week. The message for the Arizona Coyotes in the past is we're committed to the Valley, meaning the Phoenix area, of course, the American Hockey League team here in Tucson. We were committed to the area. That's the beginning, middle, and end of it. Well, now the Coyotes are they're going to bid in late June on this plot of land. We got a little video here we're going to show. This is in North Phoenix, right near Scottsdale. The Scottsdale mayor is already opposed. The Arizona Coyotes are going to bid on this in late June, this land auction that will be north of $63 million. And now the Coyotes' messaging is, if we don't get this land, after what happened in Tempe, after all the years of the saga, with the 3 years in the Mullet Arena expiring next year, we're now going to look at relocation. Your thoughts on the Coyotes' change of messaging?
Desperate times call for desperate measures, and I think that's a desperate messaging that probably falls flat for 85% of those in the Phoenix metro area because they're not huge Coyotes fans, and losing the fourth of the four major sports isn't the end of the world to a lot of people. Now, me, Jason, you know my background. I covered hockey for 25 years of my career, both in Pittsburgh and in St. Louis. And I love hockey. And I love the fact that the AHL team, the Tucson Roadrunners, is here. And I'd hate to see the Arizona Coyotes leave and potentially have the Roadrunners move somewhere else to kind of follow that team and be in closer proximity. So I'm all for this move. I'm all for whatever it takes for them to get an arena, because I think the Mullet Arena right now is a terrible idea. It's really awful looking, optics for the NHL to have them playing in a college hockey arena. They've got to get something done. If this is the last gasp effort, then then go for it. And I wish them well, and I hope it all works out. But I just think messaging like that it really makes you look desperate, and it's a threat that really doesn't have any clout behind it, unfortunately. And I say that as somebody who really does love the NHL.
Well, it sounds a little PR-ish too. Hey, we the old college try, we gave it everything we could. And to me, when you've had this many years and this many problems, you wonder if it's really a fit. And so, I hope they get the plot of land. I don't like the way the Scottsdale mayor is already opposed.
What did the Scottsdale mayor say?
I did not about water and sewer. They're already getting to the nitty gritty of everything.
And it's because it's an entertainment complex. Like, it's not just going to be an arena. It'll be, almost like where State Farm Stadium is now. You know how that's blown up into this entertainment complex too, and that's what they want to do with this. And maybe the Scottsdale mayor's looking at that as they're going to take business away from us. But the bottom line is, they need that arena to be over on the east side of the valley in Phoenix, because that's where a lot of the money is. That's where a lot of the demographic of who's going to come fill those luxury boxes is. And the big knock on Glendale is, it's okay if I go there 8 times a year for an NFL game, but I don't want to go there 41 nights a year for hockey. So if you've got it over on the side of the town I live on, which is Scottsdale or Paradise Valley or whatever, or, even Gilbert or even Chandler, it's closer to Chandler. So you're looking at more of the demographic and more of the money that they're looking for in that side of town.
Okay, so that's not till late June. And as we wrap up here, Pat, a thought on the are you going to be broadcasting the Tucson Sugar Skulls game this weekend?
I am, and it's that you've got some video there. I think the Sugar Skulls under new coach Billy Back comes over from Frisco, who had great success there. And I know it. You said it, and I'll echo it. Four coaches and 5 seasons now for the Sugar Skulls, and
Yeah.
that's not that doesn't bode that doesn't shed great light on a league that happens, but it happens in this league, and there's a lot of turnover. What I did like to see is I like to see that they played competitively in the first game with a lot of young players. I talked to some of the coaches today, and they were amazed at the speed of the game for the young players. It was just too fast in their opening loss at Northern Arizona, but they came right back and they won in Albuquerque against Duke City this past weekend, and they liked the way the team responded. They're home against Dixie Wooten and the Bay Area Panthers, the defending IFL champions, on Sunday afternoon.
I think he's the associate head coach, though. I don't think he's
he's the offensive coordinator and associate head coach,
okay.
and I call it Dixie Wooten's team because
right.
whoever the offensive coordinator is, that's who's running the team, right? As far as because we all know it's about offense. So I'm excited about it. I get the opportunity for the YouTube broadcast to call the game, and looking forward to it. We'll see. Hopefully they play well. And if they play well, we all know that in Tucson, if you play well and you win some games, people show up.
Yeah. Plus you got the town to yourself in July, and Malik Mitchell, who you see there, is a pretty exciting quarterback. Guy who
you jumped on him right away. You like his arm. You like his poise.
Oh yeah, no, I don't. I got it. You got it. Yeah, no. An interesting story, real quickly. He started his career at Kent State. They had a game at #1 Alabama, broke his wrist. Ended up transferring to Ferris State, was a part of a couple Division II national championships. He's left-handed, 6'4", big, strong, good arm, can run. And Billy Back described him as a smooth operator. So I think he accounted for 7 touchdowns in last week's win.
Yeah.
And it'll be exciting to see how he does at the Tucson Arena on Saturday. All right.
Yeah, and we'll have Malik on at some point, and I'm sure we'll have Billy Back on as well at some point because things get a little bit leaner during the summer months, but it's always important. In at least in the sports world, it's a little different than the news world, Jason. But I think in the sports world, we feel, that we should at least cover these teams because they're the teams that are here in Tucson, like the Roadrunners and the Sugar Skulls and FC Tucson. There's a reason why
Tucson Saguaros.
Yeah, there you go. The Tucson Saguaros are another one. And what else are you going to do during the summer? And eventually here it's going to get so hot you're not going to want to be outside. So why not head to the TCC?
Those games in June are just good for the air conditioning alone.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. All right. Well, the football too. All right. That does it for this edition of the Huddle, KGUN 9 Streaming Sports Showcase. For Pat Parris, I'm Jason Barr. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching in live and on tape delay. We'll see you right back here, same time next week.